In this video, I want to show you a seemingly difficult endgame position that can be summarized in one single sentence if you do the right work with the engine and you understand the position deeply. Let's jump right in. So this is the position we're going to talk about in this video. White is a pawn up and has just moved their knight from c3 to b5. And the question is, what should black play here? As always, the best way to get the most out of this video is to stop the video, think for yourself for like 2 to 5 minutes, and then write your thoughts down in the comments below before you continue watching the video and get the spoilers. First, let's look at what happened in the game. Then we start switching on the engine and learning how to use the engine to get more out of it. And well, I will summarize at the end of this video basically this position with one single sentence. So let's start. In the game, black played the move f6, white played knight to d6, rook to c7, c4 happened, king to g5, and white played king to e3. And I think here we can assess that white has a very strong knight, has a centralized king. This knight is very off, right? This knight is not good for black. Black doesn't really have a lot of counterplay, and white will probably just push their pawns on the queen side. Note that this knight is also protecting the pawn on c4 and win the game. That's roughly how the game went as well. White is winning here. So what happened is, when going through this game with the engine, 2 students of the Simplified Chess Improvement System that talked about this game in our community noticed that the move king to g5 here is very good, and on the other hand, the move f6 played in the game is really not liked by the engine, right? We have a position where the computer is giving 0.9, right? So not a huge advantage, like big advantage for white, but not winning advantage. And after the, decent looking move f6, what happened is black seems to be completely busted. So the question was like, what's wrong with f6? Why is f6 such a bad move? And now I want to untangle this step by step. So when you're going through a game like this, right, and you see this huge difference, the first thing I want you to notice is how many moves are equal according to the engine. How many best moves are there that are within a similar range? And in this position right here, we can see that there is basically only one move that the computer likes, right? There's 0.9 and then 1.7 already and 2.8. So it goes drastically worse for black. What does that mean? When you only basically have one move in the position, you can basically be sure that this single move will have something concrete in there, something hidden that is concretely good for black, or at least not as bad, and all the other moves don't have that factor. So in this position, it's not about f6 being bad, right? Because there are many moves that look logical, like f5, rook c5, rook e8, that are as bad as f6. But it's all about, why is king g5 so good, right? So the right question to ask is not, why is the move played in the game bad, but more, why is this other option, this one single option from black so good? And that's where you need to dig. So let's go digging into king to g5. Now, what we can do is to play through the same idea that happened after f6 and see the difference. Okay, so king g5, if you remember, what white was doing is playing knight to d6 after f6, right? So knight to d6 is happening, rook to c7, and the idea of king g5 is king to f4 and attacking this pawn on f3. So what white was doing in the game was playing king to e3. Now, when you execute king to e3, you can realize, again, there is one single move, which is rook takes c2. And actually, funnily enough, black is even threatening a checkmate on e2, right? e2 is covered, rook e2 would be checkmate. So for example, if you just take with check here, king f6, you actually start having some problems with white. You can see that black is already starting to be better. So this is a key line. So what we can notice is, if we just play the same way, then black is having a good game. We can't counter king g5 with king e3. And what else did we do? We did c4 in the other line, And then you can see again, there is one single move. So now we discovered the concrete line. It's all about getting king f4, and now f3 is hanging. So this is very, very concrete. We can assess that king to g5 is the best move because it concretely gets to f4 because the c2 pawn is hanging, right? The c2 pawn is hanging, we can't play king to e3. And just to make that clear again, when we play f6, right, there is knight to d6, rook c7. Now, c4 was played with white, which is a very strong move because it stops that attack on the c2 pawn. King to g5, and now king to e3 is very good. It's also interesting here that, for example, you see the computer again, right? White is actually having many different moves, but king e3 is really the move that is most clear. King e3, we stop king f4, black doesn't have counterplay. For example, if you look at lines like b4, king f4, king c3, we gave up the f3 pawn. Like, this is again just engine bubbling, right? This is just, okay, concretely somehow these pawns are still promoting, but why in the world would we give up f3, maybe e4 as well? That's not human play. So what the human play is to just say, I want to counter king g5 with king e3. Oops, with king e3. And once you learn this, you can even go back a few moves. So this was our starting position, right? If you're looking at the game, you might realize, oh, knight b5 is considered a mistake, right? Knight b5 is considered a mistake, and knight to d5 seems a better move. The question is, why is knight d5 better? Well, knight d5 is stopping king to f4, right? So it's not like, oh, the knight on d5 is nicer placed or better placed than the knight on b5. No, it's again very concrete. The difficult thing is figuring this out with the engine, because the engine is not going to tell you, hey, by the way, there is something concrete, go down this line. You need to be able to do that yourself, or to just say, okay, I don't understand that. I don't take away something bigger because I don't understand it. So here's how I would summarize this position in one sentence. Black needs counterplay, and the best counterplay is king to f4, and the only way to make that work is playing directly king g5, because king e3 is impossible, because the pawn on c2 is hanging. That's all this position is about. Anything else that you're trying to take away is something that is just not going to apply and be 100% correct, and wrong takeaways are so dangerous. And if you feel like, oh yeah, this is way too hard to do that with the engine, I can't understand that, I don't know how to go deeper, then it's totally fine to just look at this moment, say, I don't fully get it, that's all right. But the key thing is really not to get the wrong takeaway. So if you don't understand it, either ask a stronger human than you that can say it in human ways, or just forget about the moment for now, but don't try to interpret the engine wrongly and then come away with a wrong takeaway, like for example f6 is not good because it opens up the 7th rank for white's rook. Now that's not at all what this position is about. And now let's have some fun and look at what game review from chess.com would say about this position. Spoiler alert, I'm not a big fan of it and it's not really useful. Here we see that knight b5 is considered a mistake, and coach says this misses a better way to take an outpost with a knight. Yeah, but it's not really useful because the key difference is the knight on d5 is actually stopping king to f4. That's all it is about. So not really useful. f6 is a miss. Only one move worked there and this wasn't it. Well, thank you very much. That was super useful. And then if we move on, knight d6, rook c7, c4, king g5, for example, to say this threatens to set up a blockade. Again, this is not a blockade. This is just winning a pawn. So it's not really useful. And if we go back to see why king g5 was better, this is the only move that works, right? And then look at knight d6. Okay, there were worse moves, but also something much better. Again, like, what's that? Like, I don't even know why this would exist if it just says the obvious thing. This is the only good move, the correct move to safety. Now, for some reason, says that white should play c3. That's not a mistake, but it's not the best move either. I don't know. I don't even understand why this blocks white pawn. No, it just wins white's pawn, right? So I hope this makes it clear. Like, if you have these positions that are hard to understand, just like game review or AI coaches in general, or just watching the engine, it's not the way to go about it. If you find a human that actually understands the position, they might just summarize a position in one sentence, and otherwise you spend like a half an hour or an hour trying to wrap your head around something, you get a completely wrong takeaway. Just not worth your time. Don't do that. That's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed and learned something. If you did, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel to not miss any future videos, and leave a comment. Really helps out the channel a ton. And see you in the next video. Bye.